Welcome to the Farming Without the Bank podcast, the show with a no BS approach to money, hosted by a farm strategy expert and authorized IBC practitioner. Join us as we get real and expose the flaws of traditional financial institutions in order to help farmers take control of their finances, create peace of mind, grow their wealth, and leave a legacy. Now, here's your host, Mary Jo Irmen.
Hello, and welcome back to the Farming Without the Bank podcast, or welcome if it is your first time here. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I say it all the time, how much I appreciate you guys and your reviews and sharing everything. And I do appreciate it. All right, today we are going to talk about how am I supposed to pay myself back when I buy something with cash? And I have gotten this question a lot lately. So I don't believe that I have already done a podcast on this. And if I did, apparently we need to do another one because all of these people that I'm talking to are avid podcast listeners. And so if I have covered it, I would imagine that the answer would have been there and the question would have been answered. But apparently it's not. Anyway, I always tell people, and Nelson talks about it, if you use cash to pay yourself back for the cash, and the question is, Mary Jo, I don't have the money to pay myself back for the cash purchase. My question is why? We had enough money, we had enough cash to buy it. How did we get that cash to buy it? And I was just talking to a client and they said, well, we bought a piece of equipment with cash. So how are we supposed to get the money now to pay ourselves back for that piece of equipment? And I said, well, how did you get the money to buy the piece of equipment? Well, they had a good year, so they had a little extra money. Okay, how long are you going to keep that piece of equipment? Oh, probably 10 years. So if you're going to keep the piece of equipment 10 years, then let's just use a round number, $100,000. You paid $100,000 for that piece of equipment. So why would you not pay yourself back $10,000 a year over the next 10 years? What if you have a really good year in year 3? Great, pay it back. Where do I pay it back to? A savings account if you want to. If you want to make it a premium payment, you can make it a premium payment to start your bank. Right? Other people, I will say, where did you get the money to buy that piece of equipment? Well, we saved because we knew we were going to need it. So if you've already been saving, that is your payment. You're calling it a deposit into a savings account. I'm calling it a payment. Don't let the language confuse you. If you can't afford a payment, aka deposit, back to yourself, then what if you needed that piece of equipment and you didn't have the cash for it? Now, I ask this question as well. Well, I would have borrowed it from an equipment dealer, or I would have went to the bank and borrowed the money. And then you would have had a payment to the bank and you would have figured out how you were going to make that payment. So saying I can't afford to pay myself back is just creating an excuse, an absolute 100% excuse. Because if you can't pay yourself back, should have you made the purchase? And Nelson talks about this in his book, right? We don't put money into a life insurance policy and act like that's free money and never pay it back. If you do, you are a terrible banker. This is not free money. You are paying an interest rate on it. You have to pay it back. And so by saying, I'm just going to use cash and not pay myself back, you just stole from yourself. Put your banker hat on because this is you becoming the banker. As I've said in my last podcast, Nelson says we need to be in two businesses. We need to be in the business of farming and we need to be in the business of banking. You put your banker hat on and you are in the business of banking. If you lent that money to the farm better be able to pay you back. If the farm cannot pay you back, then should you be making the purchase? If the farm can't pay you back in 10 years for that piece of equipment, can you make a 20-year payment back to yourself? Sure, because you get to control it. You're the one that gets to decide the payback terms. So don't get so confused and misled by the whole statement of paying yourself back. The whole reason that we don't have money is because we don't pay ourselves back plus interest. Again, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to do that. It's just doing it. I was listening to a podcast this morning and they were raving about the whole Dave Ramsey method, right? And the guy was going off. It was he worked for him or something. And so he was talking about how awesome this is, to be debt-free and to put your money in a stock market, in the investments, and then you have it there for retirement, and you better sacrifice today so that you can retire tomorrow. That's how my thought process was when I heard about the infinite banking concept. I'm going to sacrifice today so I can have that tomorrow. Would have I had to sacrifice? Would have I been a better money manager if I would have just paid myself back plus interest? I wouldn't have needed to go to the bank and borrow money for a vehicle, right? Because the money I used for vacation would have been there to buy a vehicle. This not paying ourselves back is stealing from ourselves. And all it is a thought process. What you do with the money that you pay yourself back with is important. That's why we're using the life insurance policy as the tool. But cash is not king. Absolutely not king. We lose lost opportunity cost on that. If you took money from savings to buy a piece of equipment, that money is no longer earning anything in savings. So you better pay yourself back plus interest to replace what you lost from not being in savings earning anything. And let's be honest, that's not going to take much because in savings accounts aren't paying anything. But your savings account could pay a heck of a lot more because you could be charging yourself 3-4% interest. And guess what? Next time you need money, you have it there. If you need to pay yourself and you put it in the books that I have this payment back to myself, then the farm needs to make enough money to make that payment. If the farm cannot make that payment, then the farm is not being profitable. And what are we doing wrong? Because if we didn't have the cash to buy it, again, we would have had to go borrow it. Or we would have had to figure out a better way around it. So if we could have figured out a better way around it, did we even really need the piece of equipment that we bought? Would have we been better off to continue to pay somebody else to do it? Because was paying somebody else to do it less expensive and less cash flow out of our system? We have to think about every aspect of what we are doing with the money and if we need it. Because we say we have the cash, we're going to go buy XYZ, but if we can't pay ourselves back for XYZ, did we need it? Should have we bought it? If we would have had to borrow it from the bank and pay them, we would have had to make the payment. You would have figured it out. So figure out how you're going to do it to yourself. What's hard here is understanding why I should pay myself back. Because it's just not been taught. Even the podcast I was listening to did not talk about it. I almost lost my mind. In fact, the people whose podcast it is, I'm going to send them Nelson's book because they rave about being debt-free. I like the podcast hosts. I do. I like their podcast. But my gosh, if we are teaching people to be business owners and that we're supposed to be debt-free, So we're going to take all of our money and pay something off and not have the cash flow? You've heard me say it before. Cash flow is king. I have a colleague that says cash value is king. I am now torn. Maybe we need two kings. Cash value is king in my world, but cash flow is king in the world of doing business, right? Because we need cash flow to pay for the policy to create cash value. So maybe cash value is queen and cash is junior. I don't know what's under a queen. I'm not sure the succession there. But think about it. If you're buying something with cash, how did you get the cash? If it was a lump sum because we had a good year, we may have another good year in 10 years that needs to get paid back, or drag it out over 10 years. Just make sure that payment is getting made. I don't have anything else for you. I don't. If you have not gotten the book, I know so many of you listen to this before you get the book. And so if you've not gotten the book, please do, and grab Nelson's book, Becoming Your Own Banker, right away. They are in a bundle on the website. So please do that. Be on the lookout for Life Without the Bank. If you are listening to this just as it came out, that book should be live, or it will be within a few days. But it should be live, and you should be able to pick up Life Without the Bank if you wanted to do that. And otherwise, you know where to get a hold of me. You know, if you have questions, I am here, and I am here to answer those. So email me at maryjo@withoutthebank.com. If you are going to email me asking me for advice and you send me a paragraph, which seems to be the norm, and I get a lot of those in a week, but you send me a paragraph of what's going on, asking me if this is what you can do, I am sorry, but I am not going to answer you or give you advice. Not because I don't want to, because I am full of advice, you guys. However, and I am full of strategies. However, I ask questions for an hour. When you have an hour and a half consultation with me, I'm asking you questions because I need to know what's going on to give you some decent strategies. I don't know what's going on in a paragraph. And so as much as I would love to help you, I'm just not going to be able to give you any advice on what to do. If you are looking for ways to start farming and where can I get financing, I don't give people financing. I don't know where you go to get the financing. I mean, there are tons of banks out there. You're going to have to do some of that due diligence on your own because I don't send people to financial institutions. The goal is to get them away from the financial institution. So I can't answer that question either. And I do, you guys, it's crazy how many of these questions I get in a week. I've recently had a lot of people asking for advice on how to use their policies. Here's the deal. I don't have enough time to help people that are not clients. And that stinks. And I would love to help everybody. But if you are not a client, I do not have the time to teach you the infinite banking concept. Read Nelson's book. Listen to the podcasts. There's tons of us that are doing podcasts. Get the information that you need from there. If your agent that sold you the policy is not going to become IBC certified, that speaks volumes because they're lazy. Plain and simple, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They are lazy. If I have a client that asks me to research something, I'm going to research it. Why you would sell life insurance and not want to look into being IBC certified and look into how important that is, pure laziness, no other question about it. And I really, truly love the teaching part of what I do and running the strategies. But if you guys looked at my calendar, I'm booked until April. I am back to back. That is not, oh, Mary Jo's just taking days off. No, I don't have a day off. So That is me meeting with people all day, taking care of existing clients and making sure that my existing clients are okay, making sure that the new people are getting in to have meetings. I don't have time to teach agents. That question I get a lot too. I don't have time to teach your agent how to do this because they're lazy. They should look it up themselves. I don't have time to teach and set meetings up for people that already have whole life and how to do it. Will I talk to you and see if there's something that we can do? Absolutely. If you want to set up a 1.5 hour meeting, but I don't have time to revisit, years later or months later and work that strategy with you. I apologize. I'm very, very sorry for that. I wish that I could clone myself and that would, be the case, but not the case. I did talk to my assistant, Jess said the other day that people are calling, and she said it's amazing how many times a week she has to tell people that, it's important to be infinite banking certified. It's important to understand the concept. It's important to have your agent know something about farming. And she said it is unbelievable how many times a week she has to tell that to people when they call in. Because so many people want to use their local agent. So many people want to use their friend and family member. And I get that. I do. But if they're not infinite banking certified and they can't teach you the concept, I had clients that just told me that they've gone to 2 different agents that they know, and neither one of them are teaching them how to utilize money. Neither one of them are running strategies. Both are selling them insurance. And they said, neither one of them can we have this conversation with you on how to progress our farm. Folks, that's what I'm here for. The teaching is what I'm here for. That is what I help my clients with. It is not about the policy. So keep that in mind if you are looking for an agent, if you are having questions, if you are thinking about reaching out in a 1-paragraph email, I'm not going to be able to answer it. Go ahead, schedule your appointment and get on the waiting list because we have one and apparently it's quite lengthy. So get on the waiting list so that you can get in sooner if you need to. Calling and asking if you can get in sooner is not going to get you in sooner. My girls, there's no room. There's absolutely no room for you to get in sooner. And I don't care how much money you have. I'm not making the exception to the rule. Everybody is important. Everybody gets their time in their slotted allotment. I'm not bumping somebody else so that you can get in or you can get moved. Because frankly, I just don't care how much money you have. Not how I operate. People that are going to write a $3,000 policy are just as important as somebody that's going to write a $1 million premium policy. I don't look at them any differently. They all get the same attention, and I love them all equally. All right, if you guys need something, let me know. Mary Jo at withoutthebank.com. And I hope that helped. Pay yourself back. Be an honest banker. And we will talk to you in the next podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Farming Without the Bank podcast. We hope today's episode has inspired you to take control of your finances in new ways. Don't forget to check out our website, farmingwithoutthebank.com, and engage with us on our Facebook page, Farming Without the Bank. Join us next week as we smash more financial myths and empower you to accomplish your financial goals.